Okay, here we go. This is Garrett. This video is called 40 Years of Lies. I want to uncover another deception, another lie that the U.S. government has been telling us for the last 40 years. It's not only the U.S. government, it's also other governments of the world too, quite possibly. So let's get started. Here is a picture of the Wright brothers back in 1903. This is their plane, the Wright brothers plane. Now, take a good look at it, and let's go 40 years forward to jet fighters in World War II. And look at these pictures. And in the early 40s, the U.S. was just developing their own jet fighters. Germany had a small head start on us. Now you can see a huge difference in technology, can't you? I mean, I hope you can. Look at the difference in 40 years. Okay, now, let's look at shoes. Let's look at shoes from about 40 to 50 years ago. And look at some of the modern shoes. When you look at the pictures, you can see a gigantic difference in technology, in design, in ingenuity, in colors. Let's try another one. Let's look at cars. Let's look at cars from about 40 or 50 years ago. Here's a couple pictures. And let's look at some of the cars we have today. You can clearly see a big difference, can't you? I mean, I hope you can, right? Look at the difference in 40 to 50 years. Take a look. Let's try another one real quick. Let's look at skyscrapers. Let's look at very tall buildings from 40 to 50 years ago. And let's take a look at some of the buildings that the world is building right now, whether in Las Vegas or Dubai or in China. Take a look at the difference in technology. Take a look at the differences in design. Take a look at the differences in the human ingenuity. Look at the differences in colors and textures and materials. I mean, they're obviously different in the past 40 to 50 years. Let's try one more. Let's take a look at planes. Let's take a look at planes from 40 to 50 years ago. And let's take a look at some of them right now. We can clearly see a difference in the Learjet designs and the designs of the planes. It's obvious. They look different. You can see the differences in technology. Now let's get to the real deception. Let's get now to what this video is actually about. Here is the Wright brothers plane again from 1903. Here's a couple different pictures so you can get a really good look. Now, take a look once again at some jet fighters in the 1940s, just 40 years later. You can see a difference. I mean, they're like night and day. They have nothing in common. Now, let me show you some pictures of the F-117 stealth fighter, which was developed about 40 years ago. The F-117 stealth fighter being manufactured in the 70s, going into military service, and coming out into the public in the 80s. Let's take a look at some pictures of the B-2 stealth bomber, manufactured 40 to 45 years ago, coming out into public about 25 years ago. And the Aurora secret spy plane or jet or spacecraft or whatever that was went into manufacturing around 40 years ago, give or take 5 years. These 3 aircraft right here that I've been showing you for the last minute are 40-year-old technology. Now look at this deception. 40 years later, the U.S. government is trying to tell us that this is all we can come up with in 40 years? The F-22 and the F-35? I mean, look at the pictures. They do not look any more advanced than the B-2 bomber from 40 years ago. They don't look any more advanced than the F-117 stealth fighter. And the U.S. government is trying to tell us that this is what they've come up with in the last 40 years? No, no, no. We're not going to believe that at all. In fact, let me tell you something. If I didn't know what year these jets were manufactured and produced, when I look at all 4 of them, I actually believe the B-2 bomber and the stealth fighter are more advanced than the F-22 and the F-35. They look more advanced. They look more technologically advanced. Their designs are better. Their shapes are better. And you can see hidden technology all around them. They actually look more advanced than the F-22 that just came out and the F-35. So what is really going on here? What is this video actually about? Let's uncover the 40-year deception. The U.S. government would want you to believe that in the last 40 years we've been working on our jet fighters and this is all we came up with, the F-22 and the F-35. But here's the real truth. The F-22 and the F-35 are the cover story. They are the deception. The government are using these 2 jets to tell its citizens this is our brand new military aircraft to cover up the real space program, to cover up the real fighter spaceships, to cover up the spaceship bombers, to cover up the spaceships that are 1 to 2 miles long. So how does this work? Let me go over this with you. Number 1, the government gives contracts to Lockheed Martin or or Boeing or different other aircraft manufacturers. Number 1, it creates jobs. Number 2, it keeps the economy going. The U.S. economy is based off of war and military equipment. Almost our entire economy is now based off of warfare. So a part of this deception of ordering these jets with Lockheed Martin, with Boeing, and all the other aircraft companies is to create jobs, to keep these companies going forward, to create economy, etc., etc. But let's continue. The main reason these jets are developed is to cover up the secret U.S. space program. That's the main reason these ridiculous jets are developed in the first place. The F-22 and the F-35 are junk. They're pure junk that should be thrown in a trash can compared to what we really have. There is a lot more going on also. For example, we have to keep creating tanks, rifles, machine guns, bullets, jets, and helicopters to fight all of these silly, messy, trashy wars all over the world, like in Libya, Syria, and Afghanistan. So we bring our jets and tanks and machine guns to these silly, ridiculous, evil wars to show the world, to show the U.S. population that we're fighting a war there, when some of us know that we have space-age technology that could wipe out the entire cities in 10 minutes. You see, this is a deception. This is a scam. They are using trickery on us, and they're using the jets, the F-14, F-15, F-16, F-17 stealth fighter, F-22, F-35, as a form of manipulation. They are brainwashing us to believe these are the U.S. military jets, when the real technology is underground, up in space, on the moon, and on other moons and planets that we don't know about. That's where the real technology is located. Let me give you an example. Let's say I have a $50,000 Les Paul guitar that Jimmy Page used to play. I'm not going to play that guitar every day. I'm not going to take that down to the store and play on the curb asking for quarters. I'm not going to take that $50,000 guitar to your house and jam with you. No, that guitar is going to be used only on special occasions, once in a while. And this is a small example of how the US, Russia, and other countries are using their space technology. They're using the spaceships, the spaceship bombers, and this other technology for special jobs like colonizing moons and planets, or having little skirmishes out there in space where they might fight for half a day because of a disagreement, etc., etc. They are not going to whip down their space-age Star Wars technology down in Syria. They're not going to bring it down in Afghanistan. You don't do that. You would not do that. Let me give you one more example. Let's say you had some fine china worth $100,000. The china was from Japan, made out of gold and emerald and sapphires. You don't use these plates and bowls and cups every day to have cereal. You don't use these bowls, plates, cups, and spoons to have pizza every night. You would use them only for special occasions. Now do you see what I mean? The space age technology, the Star Wars technology, is being used for special projects, special things out in space and here on Earth. And if you don't believe me, here, let me tell you a true story. The Vatican astronomers working in Arizona and working in Antarctica have leaked out a story that sometimes when they set their telescopes up in Antarctica, they can't even look out at the sky because of all of the UFO ships up in the air and up in space. The Vatican scientists have said that it can take even 30 minutes. They're sitting there for 30 minutes with their telescopes waiting for some open space they can look at because of all of the spaceships flying around. That's a small example of how many spaceships are flying up in the sky and out in space. There could be thousands and thousands and thousands of spaceships that the US, Russia, England, Australia, New Zealand, possibly Israel, and a few other countries like Japan and Germany have up in space. That is how crowded it is up in space, according to the Vatican astronomers. That was a true story. So to wrap up this video, when I look at pictures of the F-117, built 40 years ago, the B-2 bomber, 30 to 35 to 40 years ago, compared to the F-22 and the F-35, I'm sorry, that's a scam. That is a scam. The F-117 and the B-2 bomber actually look newer. They actually look more technological. Anyway, I pray this video is blessing you and that we're going to expose more and more of these scams and deceptions. We have to stop believing what the government tells us. We have to stop believing what the news tells us. It's all a lie. And on the topic of our jet fighters and helicopters, we are only seeing 40 to 50-year-old technology. All the rest is either underground, under the ocean, up on the moon, up in space, in spaceports, on other planets and other moons. That's where the hidden technology is. All right, praise God.